It's Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods.
.06 the time. It's a Thursday, and I swear I can see the weekend from here.
Today's show is sponsored by ice.
Wow.
It's
ice.
water, but in a solid state.
Cool.
Caution. It may fall from the sky.
Yeah, we kind of call that, hail.
Warning, this show contains reference to guns, liberty, limited government, low taxation, the cult of climate change, free thinking, cigar smoking, short people, rubber chickens, Karen's bureaucracy, liberal buzzwords, tour runs, traffic, toilets, terrible jokes, and more. No apologies will be issued. Guest callers may express any opinion they want without fear of being canceled. Unless you're a loudmouth jerk like Dave, then Glenn will hang up on you. Strap in, hold on to your coffee, and feel free to participate.
This disclaimer does not refer to every person named Dave, just one particular Dave from San Francisco. We know a lot of Daves. They call this show all the time, and they're great people. So don't call this program and complain that we use your name. That would be a real Dave move, Dave.
So the president has COVID. Now, yesterday when I first saw this, I had to check several news sources to make sure it wasn't a joke, but yeah, he's got COVID. Now, before I get into the president having COVID, let me jump in with, he has COVID again. When we go all the way back to 2020 and the beginning of the whole COVID thing, Biden was, of course, on television, getting in front of the media, getting his COVID shot. And every time he got a booster, we got pictures of him or video of him getting his booster. And he said over and over again that COVID is really, it's just a disease of the unvaccinated. Because if you're vaccinated, you're not getting this. That's what he said. I played the audio of him saying it. And yet, how many times has he gotten COVID? And he has it again. Now, I just heard a report at the news top of the hour where they were saying COVID these days is a lot like just getting the flu. And people don't take it as harsh as they did before. Even just, by the way, people die from the flu every single year, too, just like they do with COVID. But all right. So my point, though, with Biden is how many times does somebody have to get their shots and boosters and still get it before they begin to realize that maybe that's not working? I have heard from people, well, because they got their shots, they're not going to get COVID as bad. I understand what you're saying, and yet I've never found any evidence one way or the other on that, either for or against, to prove or disprove that. None. All right, so here's the latest on this. MSNBC host Joy Reid suggested on Wednesday that President, and you're going to love this, President Biden recovering from COVID-19 is a sign of strength, similar to former President Trump surviving an assassination attempt. I have to read that again. And by the way, Joy Reid is one of those propagandists on MSNBC who says the most outrageous things, and there are some people out there that will actually buy into this. The vast majority of American people will not, but she'll go ahead and say it anyway. So let me read that again. MSNBC host Joy Reid suggested Wednesday that President Biden's recovery from COVID-19 is a sign of strength, similar to former President Trump surviving an assassination attempt. Quote, these two men are both elderly. Donald Trump is an elderly man who, for whatever reason, was given 9 seconds to take an iconic photo op during an active shooter situation. Weird situation. We'll figure out one day. So in other words, when Trump turned to the crowd and pumped his fist and got the crowd all excited because he got up from being shot at, she thinks that's weird. Reid added that the media is portraying Trump surviving an assassination attempt, shortly returning to campaigning, as a sign of strength. Well, I would say that it was. I bet you would say that it was, too. Well, the current president, 81 years old, isn't that the same thing? No, really, but okay. I still have to ask the question, though, how many times does this guy have to get vaccinated with boosters and all of that, and he still gets COVID? And his wife has gotten it multiple times, and members of his staff has gotten it multiple times. But they apparently, the vaccines, that's what we should have done. Yet he's got it again. Now, if you think what Joy Reid said was nuts, hang on. I'm going to give what real nuts sounds like to you. In fact, before I go ahead and play this, I should stop for just a minute and remind everybody to be nice. And they have me do this every single time I bring up stuff like that, which will cause you to make fun of those on the left. So if you'll all join me, if I have to do this, you do too, with the Be Nice song.
Be courteous, kind, and forgiving. Be gentle and peaceful each day. Be warm and human and grateful. And have a good thing to say.
Or don't say anything at all.
Be thoughtful and trustful and childlike.
Childlike, immature.
Be
like
witty and happy and wise.
Wise. Can't help you there.
Be honest and love all your neighbors.
Except for that jerk that lives up the
Be
road for me.
obsequious, purple and clairvoyant.
Clairvoyant, I love.
Be pompous, obese, and eat cactus.
I'm trying to lose weight, not eating
Be
cactus.
dull and boring and omnipresent.
Never boring on this show.
Criticize things you don't know
That's
about.
all I do on this show.
Put a live chicken in your underwear.
Carl.
Put a live chicken in your underwear. Go into a closet and suck eggs. Go into a closet and suck eggs.
Got it? All right. I'm doing that because you'll understand when I play this. So as soon as Trump got shot, and I'm saying got shot because the bullet hit him. If the bullet had missed, he would have been shot at, but it nicked him, so he was shot. As soon as that happened, I listened to all sorts of conservatives come out with their conspiracy theories. Fine. Have you heard the liberal conspiracy theories revolving around this shooting? Oh, some of you haven't.
It's a false flag.
False flag.
Yeah, false flag.
Somebody died and 2 people injured. What do you think about that?
False flag.
False flag.
I thought it was magnificently staged. It was professionally done. It almost looked real.
Wait. Staged by who?
Oh, by Mr. Trump, of course.
I think this whole thing is staged.
You think it was staged?
Yeah.
So you just thought it was fake?
Of course.
One person died in the crowd, 2 critically injured. What happened
It's a
there?
small price. It wouldn't matter to Trump. Do you think he cares if people die for him to be elected? That doesn't mean anything to Trump. I think that he walked away alive with perhaps a scratch on his ear.
Yeah, grazed his ear.
Yeah. Of course, behind the scenes, that was all fabricated. So no way they put a little scratch on his ear, threw a little blood on his face.
Now, so you think that they planned from 130 yards away to shoot off the corner of his ear?
And they never shot off the corner of his.
You're disappointed that the shooter missed Donald Trump?
100%.
Do you
He
think-
should have
do you-
died. She doesn't like him as much as I do, but she's a little more sympathetic to people
Do you
dying.
think that the shooter was justified?
He did what he wanted to do.
Do you think it was justified? Like, do you think
In
he
his eyes, I'm sure it was. But you know what? Since he missed, I can guarantee you there's going to be 100 people that are going to try to not miss.
Guys are out here on the heels of the attempted Trump assassination. Can I get your reaction to what happened the other day?
Well, it's a shame the person missed, but it's ironic that the shooter was also a Republican.
I see you have a crossbow over here. Can you tell me a little bit more about it and why you decided to bring it here? You have I don't know what it is. It looks like a crossbow.
Yeah, it's a pistol crossbow. I don't like firearm. This is a much safer alternative, and it's used only for personal defense as an absolute last resort.
I see you have a hammer and sickle tattoo.
Okay, hang on a second. That last one really was getting me. It doesn't surprise me she has a hammer and sickle tattoo, but so she carries a small crossbow, which she just considers a pistol, but it's a small crossbow. And she carries that for self-defense because it's safer than a pistol. Got it.
When you're dead, you don't know that you're dead. But it's really difficult for others. It's kind of the same like when you're stupid.
Want to talk to 888-97-WOODS or chat him on the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app. This is AM 1030 K2 Radio.
Okay, this is really disturbing, and I got to tell you before I go on with this. Well, first off, morning to Jim and Casper, Chet and Yoder, but also Steve. I think this is probably, one of the best pictures anyone has sent me all this week. So, the Secret Service, the head of the Secret Service, who is not qualified for the job, obviously, was making the excuse that they didn't have anyone up on that rooftop because it's a sloped roof, and it would be unsafe. Even though there were snipers on another rooftop that were shooting back at the shooter, and their rooftop was even more sloped, much more. Steve just sent me a picture. The words are, when the roof is too steep for snipers, but safe for a water hose and cleansing of evidence. And there's a guy from the FBI who has been tasked with the job. Now that the investigation on that rooftop where the shooter was is done, you can imagine there's some blood up there and so on. He's going to clean the roof. It's a metal roof. He's going to clean it. So he's up there walking around on the rooftop with a hose, spraying things down. Okay, so you can't put any Secret Service agents up there because it's a sloped roof. But after it's all done and you got to go ahead and clean the rooftop of all of the blood and gore, if you will, it's okay to send a guy up there with a hose. Gotcha. So for those who just joined me, yeah, the president is taking some time off. He won't be going to Las Vegas because he's sick. Again, he has COVID. Which I started the program by saying, how many shots and booster shots does a guy have to get before he doesn't get COVID anymore? Because President Biden has gotten COVID multiple times. Now, again, the argument is often made to me, well, he would have gotten it far worse if he hadn't had his shots. There's no evidence for or against that, one way or the other. I keep hearing the claim, but I haven't seen any evidence that supports that or doesn't support that either way. So I don't know if that's true or not. But what I do know is the president keeps getting, he got all of his original shots plus boosters all along the way and said that COVID was a disease of the unvaccinated. So why does he keep getting COVID? Why does he keep getting COVID? All right, well, not feeling well, he's tired. Of course, it's like flu-like symptoms, basically. So he's going to take time off to recover from that. Okay, fine. Get well soon and all that kind of stuff, fine. Still want to know where he got the COVID from. And if this is the problem, how come he's not masking and all this kind of stuff? I took those masks off a long time ago. Wasn't that supposed to help too? All right. Yes, I'm picking on the guy because of this. But for those who didn't hear, I've got to go ahead and repeat this. One of the biggest nutballs on MSNBC, and just so you know, I don't watch these networks, but I monitor them. I don't watch Fox News, but I do monitor what they're talking about. And then if something good pops up, then I'll go ahead and find the quotes and go, okay, they said what? So here's Joy Reid talking about COVID and trying to make a comparison. Reid suggested on Wednesday that President Biden recovering from COVID-19 is a sign of strength, similar to former President Trump surviving an assassination attempt. I really don't think you can compare the two, but she's got to do something because here's what's happening. As you know, I know why she's doing this. I think you do too, but let's go ahead and review. Right now, President Biden is looking really weak and frail. Recently, I saw a clip of him. He's at some kind of like a coffee shop or a little restaurant or something like that, and he was giving a little talk. He's walking around with a microphone. Everybody's sitting at tables with cups of coffee. And the last thing he says, after the end of his little speech, and the whole speech, he seemed frail, weak. He's shuffling around. He's mumbling. At least he made it through the speech. When he got to the end, he's stumbling on his words a lot, too. When he got to the end of it, the last thing he did was whisper into the microphone, "I'm okay. Really." And if you have to say it, especially say it in such a weak voice, it's pretty apparent to everybody in the room, you're not okay. You're not doing okay. And Democrats see that. I'm not huge on polls, but if you do believe them, the last one shows that about 65% of Democrats would like to see somebody else at this point. So what Joy Reid has to do is try to make Biden sound like he's as strong as Trump. He's got this, by God, he can handle another 4 years. He's not weak. Why would we put such a weak man up? So she's got to make the comparison then. Well, I mean, him going through COVID is showing every bit as much strength as Trump jumping back up to his feet right after being nicked by a bullet. I mean, that's a tough guy there. By golly, that's a really tough guy. This is what they have to do because, as you know, a network like MSNBC is propaganda central, which is another reason why a while ago I turned off all of the networks, all of them, I monitor, including Fox, I monitor them to find out if they're doing anything interesting. And again, when I find something, I'll go ahead and find that clip and I'll go ahead and watch it. But I just quit watching all of them a long time ago because each and every one of them is just propaganda central. And this is the kind of stuff they do. Where they used to be news networks. They used to work hard on delivering news. I remember when MSNBC first came out. And they were much more of a news network than anything else. At least they tried to be. So did CNN. And so was Fox in the very beginning. But that's not what they're doing anymore. This is propaganda central. Not worth listening to if you really want to get news. Which, by the way, I'll let you hear. Somebody went to a university and just walked around with a microphone to a bunch of college students and asked, where do you get your news from? And the answer actually will not surprise you, but or maybe it might, depends on what you're thinking right now. We'll take a listen at what they had to say. Didn't surprise me at all as to where young people are getting their news from these days. Not at all surprising. Coming up on 6:30, local news coming your way after local news update on the weather forecast. Then you and I get back into it again. By the way, 888-97 Woods, the phone number. That's 888-97 WOODS. Wake Up Wyoming.
Wake Up Wyoming goes anywhere you do with the Wake Up Wyoming app. Free download for Apple and Android. This is K2 Radio.
6:36 the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. My name is Glenn Woods. Thanks for joining me. All right, so I thought this was pretty good. One of those smaller, and I don't want to really say news services, but it's one of those YouTube pages and websites where people are doing their version of news in a much smaller way, which I like because we've always relied all of our lives on the big news outlets. But these days, because of today's modern technology, there's a lot of people out there doing the independent job. Now, some are very good at it. Some totally suck at it. Some are propaganda, some are not. But if you dig around a little bit, you'll find a lot of smaller independents. And sometimes it's even just one person. But if they're good at it, they're good at it, right? This is one of those cases where it's a small news organization and they sent a reporter out to a university. And they just asked the question of the students. Very simple. No one's trying to challenge anybody. Where do you get your news? So when you're talking to young people in college, where would you think they get their news from? Okay, well, to me, the answer is not at all surprising.
Where do you get your news? The New York Times.
Social media.
Social media.
Yeah.
Like Instagram, YouTube, most likely.
TikTok, Reddit.
Like the Wall Street Journal.
CNN. I subscribe to the New York Times, but then also for like day-to-day stuff, I'd say like Twitter or Instagram.
Where do you get your news?
Oh, usually from my dad. He sends it to me.
Yeah.
It's usually selling just negativity, and I don't want that.
And it just like stresses people out, so I don't really watch it.
On Instagram, though, I feel like it's a lot of the general public talking to the general public. So I don't know how like trustworthy that news is, but I feel like CNN's a pretty good source.
Do you think the mainstream media is biased?
Yeah, 100%.
Do you trust the mainstream media?
Not really.
Not really. It's all an act, you know, at the end of the day.
I know that many people don't trust them.
I trust like 60% of them. Yeah, they're like biased sometimes, yes.
They're only giving us stuff they want us to hear. That's it.
So you think the mainstream media lies?
Of course, yeah.
That's nice to hear that so many of them, and it went on for there. They actually interviewed people for quite a long time, but it just kept repeating itself. It's nice to hear that there was really none of them that trusted the news media. One of them said, well, maybe about 65% of the time. But most of them have no trust in the media while they're watching, which is good. Now, when someone says they subscribe to the New York Times or Wall Street Journal, you might have pictured, if you're old enough, so they're sitting there reading the newspaper, and the answer, or they're sitting in front of their computer screen at home, and the answer is, that generation? No, they're on their phone. They just pick up their phone and they scroll through. That's a portable device. It's easy to do, and they scroll through reading those there. When they say YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, those are platforms where people can certainly get headlines from. In fact, there's occasions then I'm scrolling along. I look at a lot of social media because of this job. I want to know what people are talking about. But so oftentimes I get news feeds, even from Facebook and so on. I get all sorts of different news clips out there. But when I see it, it also makes me want to check the source. So just because the news story popped up in front of me on Instagram, for example, okay, well, there's someone who's showing a headline on Instagram, but where is that from? And that's where I'll get out of Instagram and I'll go to that actual news source and see if I can find the story. Or maybe just click on it and it takes me to that news source so I can see, yes, it actually is coming from that source itself. And somebody's just sharing it on their social media. That happens a whole lot. But as you can see, where people get their news from has changed a lot. Remember, we used to get the newspaper on our lawn in the morning. And we used to also tune in. It was a thing. It was a ritual. At my family, we would have dinner. And then right after dinner, we would all sit in front of the television and turn it on for a half hour of local news. Well, minus commercials, it's less than a half hour. And then there's a half hour of national news, so minus commercials, how much were we really getting? And most news stories, a reporter will tell you, the typical news story is like 2 minutes or less. The anchor introduces the story, then there's the reporter on the scene. They've got a couple of minutes to give you the story, then they go on to the next story. And that's how most people fed their brain with what was happening in the country, by going from one thing to the next. What changed it, really changed it, not just the internet and social media, but television with what they call the 24-hour news cycle. The problem is with the 24-hour news cycle is expensive, really expensive, to fill with actual news because you have to have reporters all over the place, which is why they all switched over to this format where they'll tell you something that's happening out there, but then they bring on their panel of experts to discuss it. And that is far less expensive than actually sending a crew, cameraman, producer, reporter, and let's get them on a plane, and we'll send them or get them in some vehicle, and we'll drive or fly them out there, or just have them located all over the country, all over the world. It's a lot less expensive to do what they're doing now, which is part of the way they've drifted away from doing real news. It's just totally different these days. All right, here's some local weather from Don Day, the extended forecast that some of you have been waiting for with a little bit of smoke in the sky. Let's wake up.
Got something to say to Glenn? Use the chat on the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app and get your opinions straight to the studio with K2 Radio.
6:48 is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. Off we go to the icebox. Frank Gambino is waiting by. Frank, I accidentally came across a video of, let me see, this is a Mission Impossible, Doug Bochler stealing a drink from a fan.
Where is this?
Okay,
Mission Impossible?
Yes, he's
the
playing
television show.
No. It's a baseball game.
Oh,
just play the Mission Impossible theme.
Yeah.
He comes out of the bullpen, sneaks on over to the stands, which are off to the side of the bullpen.
So this is a player.
Yes, it's a player.
Okay.
Yeah, and he can see someone has a beer up there in the stands.
Yeah.
But the guy put the beer down by his left foot. Okay, now he's watching the game, so he's not watching the beer by his left foot.
Right.
So this ball player sneaks over, reaches up, grabs the beer, and goes tiptoeing back to
the bullpen.
Yes, he doesn't bring the beer with him to the bullpen. He just sits down with his fellow players, and they're all high-fiving each other.
He didn't confiscate the beer from the guy?
I would think if you're going to do... I will go ahead. I'm going to copy this link and send it to you so you can go ahead and watch this.
His manager would be like, there is no drinking beer during the game for you.
Well, and again, he didn't. He set it down off to the side. You'll see that. So he didn't drink during the course of the game, but at some point the fan's going to be reaching around going, the hell's my beer? Now, I think to make it just as funny, when the guy starts looking for his beer, buy him another beer or return it.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, to have a baseball player come along and hand you the beer that he stole from you, I think the fan would really appreciate that.
And then the rest of the bullpen goes, all right, hold my beer.
Yeah, hold my beer, do the whole thing. Yeah. So, all right, you have it now. You'll be able to watch this and go ahead and judge for yourself. But I'm thinking I like it when I see players like this have a good time with the fans.
Right? Yeah. It does wonders for PR.
Sure does.
You don't want to. When I was growing up in the 70s, sometimes the players came off as like, indifferent.
Right.
Not so much anymore with social media and stuff like that.
Right.
So you got to put your best foot forward.
Right. And the bigger name and the better reputation that you get on social media, the more advertisers like it.
Yes.
And so that means that all of a sudden you can get your team and yourself a whole lot of money rolling.
There you go. All right, American Legion Baseball, the Cheyenne Sixers and the Cheyenne Hawks in the Lubbock, Texas tournament. The Sixers beat Boise yesterday 8-3, and the Hawks beat the Lubbock Strikes team 11-8. Now today, the Sixers will take on the Lubbock Academy at 8 this morning, and the Hawks will meet some team called Wall Ball in that Lubbock tournament. The Casper Drillers split a doubleheader with Douglas 7-3. The Drillers won 7-3 in the first game, and Douglas won the nightcap 7-2. In collegiate baseball in the Independence League, the Casper Spuds over the Bison traveling team yesterday at Lansing Field 12-5. They are 35-6 on the year, and those two teams will meet at Lansing tonight at 6:30. The Wyoming Coaches Association All-Star Games will be coming up on Saturday at Casper College at the Thunderbird Gym. The volleyball game at 1, the girls basketball game at 3, and the boys basketball game at 5. On the boys basketball South roster, a couple of players from Cheyenne Central, Joe Sawyer and Sammy Shumway. And for the boys on their roster, 3 players from the Trona, Colton Rogers, Nevin Coleman, and Connor White. The National High School Finals Rodeo moving along today in Rock Springs. The first go was completed yesterday afternoon. In the barrel race, first of all, Hadley Thompson of Yoder is currently 3rd in the all-around. She finished 7th in the breakaway roping in the first go with a time of 2.37. She finished 3rd in the goat tying with a time of 7.09. Abigail Olson of Sheridan jumped to 3rd in the barrel racing in the first go with a time of 17.215. Chloe Nichols of Boulder is currently 9th. Also in the breakaway roping, Ramey Hicks from Gillette, 6th in the first go-round with a time of 2.36. In the pole bending, Caitlin Moore from Wright, 5th with a time of 20.111. Abby Milberg of Gillette is 15th. Carly Peterson of Buffalo, 23rd in the cutting. And in the rein cow horse event, Sydney Rohde of Worland is in 38th place. The Wyoming girls are currently in 2nd place behind Texas. They've had a great first round. In the bareback, right for the men, Jacob Cook of Green River with a 68. He took 12th in the first round. Pace Garrett of Gillette's 22nd in the first round of the saddle bronc. In the bull riding, Aiden Ruby from Wind River posted a 73 that bumped him up to 16th. Brenson Bartlett of Cheyenne, a 71.5 that put him 20th in the first round. In the steer wrestling, Connor Weiss from Farson with a time of 4.51 that was good enough for 2nd in the round. And in the tie-down roping, Talon Larson with a 13.6 that put him in 60th place. The Wyoming boys team is currently 19th. And the National High School Finals Rodeo rolls along today and the rest of the week. The championship short go will be on Saturday night.
So you're not going to be in studio the rest of the morning?
No. I got to take pictures for the Wyoming Coaches Association, so you guys are on your own.
Okay. Well, totally on my own.
Totally on your own.
This is why we're getting Weird Al Yankovic to replace you.
Right. Okay.
Just so you know.
Does he start today?
No, Monday.
Oh.
Unfortunately, he's got other obligations.
He's
expensive, you know.
Well, I'm sure he is.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Frank. Coming up on some local business that we have to take care of. Going to roll into news time after that. National local update on the weather forecast. Wake Up Wyoming.
On deck.
.06 the time. Wake Up Wyoming. My name is Glenn Woods. Thanks for joining me. It is a Thursday, and I swear I can see the weekend from here. Hang on a second now. I hate it when that happens. All right, close everything down. Stop. Get over there. Okay, fire again.
Today's show is sponsored by ice. It's water, but in a solid state.
Gosh.
Caution. It may fall from the sky.
And dent your car. All right, 888-97 Woods, the phone number. That's 888-97-WOODS. So I did mention this earlier this week, but now there's a follow-up article by Cowboy State Dealer, which I thought they pretty much said everything that I had said, but they actually did a little more digging than I did, just because I'd only seen a headline and read part of a story. There's a lot of candidates in Wyoming that don't want to do any debates. And the reasons, I actually think, are pretty good. The story says there's a trend developing among Wyoming legislative candidates to skip formal debates hosted by groups they don't like or believe will treat them fairly in those settings. The most blatant example, Fremont County in central Wyoming, where self-described conservative Republican candidates are shunning July forums hosted by League of Women Voters, for example. These events are also being put on in concert with the Fremont County Republican Party, Fremont County Republican Women, and Fremont County Democrat Party. The group's made up of, and it talks about who the different Republicans are. We are not confident that the League is nonpartisan as the League claims, said the message from these different candidates. We will engage in other organized forums this election year. So in other words, they're being very picky about, if they do a debate at all, they're being very picky about who's exactly hosting that debate. Just because you're having a debate doesn't mean we're showing up. But there's another part to this I thought about when I talked about earlier this week. So President Trump did not engage in any of the debates for the Republican nomination. And I looked at that and thought, oh, that's unusual, but smart move. First off, he didn't trust any of the networks to host a proper debate. So since he didn't trust him, why bother to show up? And did it matter? No. He went ahead and beat everybody without saying a word. Didn't even bother. When we did have a debate between Biden and Trump, those of you who watched the debate, do you remember what was said? Except for some things like I remember when Biden had given an answer on something. I don't remember what the question was. And at the end, he sort of petered off, sounded like he was getting tired, and his last few words were mumbled. And you remember Trump said, I have no idea what he said at the end of that sentence, and I don't think he did either. Yeah, that was a great reply. You remember that. But now, these guys were shooting back all sorts of economic numbers, and they were being asked questions on foreign policy and jobs and et cetera, COVID, and so on and so on. Different scandals. Do you remember any of that? Most of you have no idea. Right. Because what stuck out were those few moments that we went, oh, really? Especially when Biden stumbled and mumbled for a good period of time. You remember that. Do you remember what he stumbled and mumbled over? I don't. And I watched the thing, and I don't remember exactly what he stumbled and mumbled over. So a lot of these debates aren't really all that good. In fact, oftentimes I complain about the format. I understand they only have so much time. We can't be there literally all night. So they ask a question, and a candidate has 2 minutes to respond, which oftentimes you can't get into the nuances of a good answer in 2 minutes. And then the opponent has a minute to rebut that. And if they go back and forth, they each get like a minute or 30 seconds to rebut. And then they go on to the next question. Now, really honestly, is that enough time to answer a more complicated question? Of course, the answer to that is no. And is that really a good back and forth? No. Maybe if some of the candidates had rehearsed a gotcha answer or a gotcha response to what somebody said. If he says this, I'm going to hit him with this gotcha, which would make a great headline. That's about all that you get out of that, which is why I was saying earlier this week when I talked about it, I think the best thing that we have, especially in Wyoming, it's really different here than many other states. You folks down listening in Colorado, especially when you're in your busier precincts, if you're in eastern Colorado for your legislative seats and even your county seats and so on. These are smaller towns. It's much easier to talk to someone. When you get into the busier areas of Colorado, Fort Collins, Denver, stuff like that, do you really ever get a chance to meet your representatives? No, you don't. Have a conversation with them. You really don't. However, here in Wyoming, they have things like I've mentioned before, Gillette often has their ice cream social. Downtown is taken over, and ice cream shops and other restaurants show up. And all the different candidates set up their booths, and you can go from one booth to the next and talk to the candidates. The only thing that I find a little annoying, and I don't care if the candidate's a big shot. I don't care. A big name, holding a major office. I don't care. They are not there. They send their representatives to talk for them. No, I want to talk to them. Go to those things. The big shot candidates should show up in the little towns and do the same thing. It's Wyoming. Go talk to people. Go meet them in person. Have conversations with them. And those candidates will have to meet some really annoying people, I know, but that's part of the job, so go do it. And I know there's other towns that have different events in parks. There's all sorts of different venues where you can actually go, show up, and meet and talk to the candidates. And several candidates, it depends on what kind of a community you're in, there's many candidates who will just go door to door, knock on doors. Hi, I'm so-and-so, and I'm running for, and I do chat with those people. When they come to my door, I've had several come to my door, knock on it, and I'll walk out and say hi. And we might just sit on the front porch and have a short conversation. I won't keep them there all day, and I know some of you will do that. You'll chat with them for a while. And that's okay. That's what they are there for. So when it comes to these candidate forums, and a lot of these candidates say, I'm not going to go to a debate. Why? I don't trust the League of Women Voters. Well, okay. If you don't, then you don't. They might show up at some other debate, some other forum. It just depends on where their trust is. But my point, though, is at least you live in a state where you can go chat with these candidates in person, which is a big advantage over other states. Let me go a little bit deeper into the Cowboy State Daily article. Other skips, one guy, Oakley, said a group of conservative candidates also skipped a meet agreed on Tuesday, hosted by the Fremont County GOP and Fremont County Republican Women's. He said she actually might participate in the league forum and was the only one with an excuse for absence that was a genuine excuse as to why they couldn't show up. It was a personal excuse. Other than that. And then the article does go into what I was talking about, where they do go to other places. In fact, Cheyenne, Wyoming, then that's a much bigger venue than most of the towns out there. They have their Super Day. And that's where on the first Saturday of summer, their biggest park, Lions Park, is taken over for a huge party, and candidates set up booths all over the place. So look for venues like that, because personally, I have not really been getting much out of any of the debates anyway. They don't really tell me anything. But that opportunity to meet them in person, oh yeah.
You can't worry about what other people think. I mean, have you met other people?
Admit it, you were hoping somebody would say that.
Council.
Where Wyoming comes to talk. This is Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods on K2 Radio. Be part of the show at 888-97-WOODS.
7:20 is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. David in Graybull. Reed Rasner came to my house, had a nice cup of coffee with him. See, that's what I mean. He's going all over the place. And I.D. John in Granite Canyon. Glenn, have you had Rasner on your show? It's been a while. But, of course, he knows he's welcome on the show. I know Miss Mary sent out invitations. So if he wants to come on, he can. I might send out another one just in case. But, of course, he's welcome on. Michael is in Cheyenne, or is it Michelle? I got confused.
Oh, no, it's Michael.
It's Michael. Okay. I get a little dyslexic on that one now and then. Sorry about that.
That's all right. I heard you talking about Cheyenne Day and Cheyenne Frontier Days.
Oh, no.
I really enjoyed Cheyenne Day in Cheyenne, Wyoming, where the city actually closes down like most of its buildings so their workforce can enjoy Cheyenne Frontier Days and as well all the events that they have.
I was talking about Super Day. I was talking about Super Day, not Frontier Days, but Super Day is when they close down Lions Park for the first Saturday of summer. And Lions Park is open with all sorts of games for the kids. There's concerts, there's food, and during political years, politicians are all over the place with their booths, which I think is a great time.
Oh, interesting. I just know like July 24th is on a Wednesday, and it's part of Cheyenne Day.
Right.
And that's where they close down all of Cheyenne so the workforce and people can enjoy the pancake breakfast. And there's a lot of big events. Like I know like the Lamp Lounge in Cheyenne is closing a whole street off for a carnival event that day. So I know it's a huge day coming up, and people in Cheyenne really enjoy the time off. They get to really enjoy things that the tourists really get to see. And that's really something that's kind of interesting to watch everybody enjoy as a vacation in their own city.
I also
really
love.
Great.
Have you tried catching a pancake yet during that event?
No, but I've watched them throw them, and I watched the kids from the Boy Scouts run and grab them.
Yeah, see, that's just a good time. So people don't know what we're talking about. They usually get politicians up there, especially during election years, and they're cooking a lot of pancakes, and I mean a lot. And when the pancake is done, people are out there in the audience holding paper plates. And the politician will throw the pancake with the spatula high into the air, and you're supposed to catch it, then go get some syrup and eat it, which I think is just hysterical. It's a lot of fun. They got great music during that event, too. And also, that's another time during an election year to go meet your politicians in person before you vote for them, or don't.
Well, we'll happen to see, hopefully we'll see some of those politicians down in the south side of Cheyenne politicking at the Lamp Lounge and stuff for that event. For Cheyenne. Come in, Glenn, and come and enjoy it with the rest of us.
All right. Thank you for calling, Michael. I appreciate it. So 888-97 Woods, the phone number, 888-97-WOODS. Yeah, he's right about that. It was a beginning of Frontier Days when they do close down most of Cheyenne. But you go right into downtown, and the whole downtown area is a big festival. And while there are a lot of tourists there, there's also just a lot of locals having a good time, too. And again, since it's an election year, well, then the politicians come out. There's in other towns, to name some more on the eastern side of Wyoming, I know that when you go to, Wheatland, just last weekend, had a downtown festival. And I was there, a lot of great cars, some politicians there. Douglas has their Jackalope Days. So you can go to that. But go all over the state, and every town somewhere has an event like that. And if you watch for those events, if you're looking for, since I'm talking about the politicians, how do you meet them and how do you get to know them and have a conversation, that's one of the ways to do that. And for those who live way out in the middle of nowhere in Wyoming, you can go to those events too, or just find other ways to meet some of these people in person. But now, David in Graybull, Reed Rasner came to my house. I had a nice cup of coffee with him. See, that's something that I do like, that is, a lot of these politicians are going. This is Graybull, Wyoming. And so Reed is there in Graybull going around door to door, knocking on doors, talking to people. Of course, he still can't get everywhere, but when he does show up somewhere, if somebody invites him in for a cup of coffee, he'll sit down and have that conversation. And that's what people who want to run for office will do. Now, as far as has he been on the show, it's been a while since I've had, and Miss Mary, remind me, I do remember, you may not remember it, have we had Reed Rasner on at some point? I do remember I had him on, but it might have been a couple of years ago when I had him on last. But I know Miss Mary sent out invitations to everybody. So if he wants to come on the program, of course he can. I'll probably just go ahead and nudge him again and say, hey, you might want to come on the program. Now, real quick, while I'm on that topic, why don't some other politicians campaign at all? So, for example, let's take Senator Barrasso and Senator Lummis. What do they do to campaign? Well, they're already on top. They already have name recognition around the state. And they already have a political coffer of some pretty good money. So they buy some billboards, they buy some radio and TV time. They make sure there's ads out there that pop up on your social media, right? It's the kind of stuff they do. And that's really, they might make some appearances at various events. You'll see them in a parade somewhere or something like that. But that's really all they have to do after that. They don't really have to get out there and campaign the way they did the first time they were running for that office way back then, because they're established. And it also comes down to, since they're so established, why even acknowledge that they have an opponent? Now, I remember some time ago, this is quite a few years back, I was talking to a Democrat who was running against Barrasso for the Senate seat. And he was really upset that Barrasso would not even acknowledge that he was alive. And I finally said, after this guy had talked my ear off for a while, why would he? Your numbers are so low in this race, most of Wyoming doesn't even know that you exist. Why would Barrasso engage you in any kind of conversation or debate or anything? That's just acknowledging your existence, which actually causes your poll numbers to go up because people know you're here. And some people will actually consider. Reed Rasner's the same thing. I haven't heard Senator Barrasso. I heard Rasner say a lot of things about Barrasso, but I haven't heard Barrasso saying anything about Rasner. And the answer is, whether you like Reed Rasner or not, he's so far behind Barrasso at this point. Why would Senator Barrasso even acknowledge that he exists? And that actually is, if you're thinking about it from a strategic point of view, that actually is a really good campaign strategy. Don't acknowledge your opponent. Don't get involved in a debate with them, anything like that, because it just calls attention to them. And now that people are paying attention, well, all of a sudden they have a possibility of actually pulling some votes. I-80 John is saying, did you see Barrasso confront the Secret Service last night at the convention? Pretty good. No, that I missed, but now that you mention it, I'll go back and see about that. I'd really be interested to see what Barrasso... did you notice? Watch Trump's Secret Service at the convention. Tell me if I'm wrong. Doesn't that look like a whole new group of people to you? I could be completely wrong, but it doesn't look like the same people who were trying to protect him, I guess, if that's what they're trying to do, at the rally where someone took a shot at him. So, all right. Coming up on 7:30, local news coming your way after local news update on your weather forecast, and you and I get back into it again. 888-97 Woods, the phone number. That's 888-97-WOODS. Talk about what I'm talking about. Change the subject, fine by me. I just kind of roll with it. 7:45, Don Day's going to be on live. He's got your extended forecast. Not just into the weekend. A little bit beyond that. Also, we'll talk a little bit of smoke that you're seeing in the sky, especially when the sun sets. Or, boy, that moon set this morning, early in the morning, was beautiful because it was orange because of the smoke. Let's wake up, Wyoming.
Monday. Wake up, Wyoming, with Glenn Woods on K2 Radio. Got something to say? Chat him on the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app or call 888-97-WOODS.
7:36 the time, Wake Up Wyoming. Okay, for those people who were not with me right off the bat at 6 o'clock this morning, okay, some of you like to sleep in. I get it. You roll out of bed a little bit later. Okay, I'm going to play this again just for you. Those people who were with me at 6 o'clock, you know what I'm about to play here. So before I get started, all rise, you Trump supporters. Hats off, especially if it's a MAGA hat. Hands on your hearts. Here we go. Sing along. And you may be seated. So here is a reporter for a very small news organization that did a good thing. He just went to a college, and he walked around to the college students there, and he asked them, oh, wait a second. I'm sorry. I'm introducing the wrong one. I was about to do the one about the where they got their news from. No, I want to play for you. Let's go to different events where there's a lot of liberals, pardon me, and we're going to talk to the liberals about this Trump shooting. Now, specifically, we're looking for the conspiracy theorists. Because just like when Trump took that bullet that nicked a chunk of his ear off, and I still want to know how much of a chunk did it get off, right away I listened to a lot of conspiracy theorists on the right who are still weaving their conspiracies about what they think happened. But what about conspiracies on the left?
It's a false flag.
False flag.
Yeah, false flag.
Somebody died and 2 people injured. What do you think about that?
False flag.
False flag.
I thought it was magnificently staged. It was professionally done. It almost looked real.
Wait. Staged by who?
Oh, by Mr. Trump, of course.
I think this whole thing is staged.
You think it was staged?
Yeah.
So you just thought it was fake?
Of course.
One person died in the crowd, 2 critically injured. What happened there?
Small price. It wouldn't matter to Trump. Do you think he cares that people die for him to be elected? That doesn't mean anything to Trump. I think that he walked away alive with perhaps a scratch on his ear.
Yeah, grazed his ear.
Yeah. Of course, behind the scenes, that was all fabricated. Some noise. They put a little scratch on his ear, threw a little blood on his face.
Now, so you think that they planned from 130 yards away to shoot off the corner of his ear?
And they never shot off the corner of his ear.
You're disappointed that the shooter missed Donald Trump?
100%. He should have died. She doesn't like him as much as I do, but she's a little more sympathetic to people dying.
Do you think that the shooter was justified?
He did what he wanted to do.
Do you think it was justified? Like, do you think
In his eyes, I'm sure it was. But you know what? Since he missed, I can guarantee you there's going to be 100 people that are going to try to not miss.
You guys are out here on the heels of the attempted Trump assassination. Can I get your reaction to what happened the other day?
Well, it's a shame the person missed, but it's ironic that the shooter was also a Republican.
I see you have a crossbow over here. Can you tell me a little bit more about it and why you decided to bring it here? You have I don't know what it is. It looks like a crossbow.
Yeah, it's a pistol crossbow. I don't like firearms. This is a much safer alternative, and it's used only for personal defense as an absolute last resort.
I see you have a hammer and sickle tattoo.
I love the crossbow thing because it's much safer than having an actual pistol there. And she has a hammer and sickle. And by the way, she's wearing a mask, too. So if you sounded kind of muffled, she was wearing a mask, just so you know. All right, so that I first heard, as soon as the shooting happened, I had heard that there had been conspiracy theories from the left, both on the left and on the right. But from the left, I thought, really, right away, they're saying false flag. It was just, it's all for show. I mean, again, he nicks his ear on purpose with like a little razor. He splatters some blood up there, and there you go. And it all looks fake. Or maybe he never even nicked his ear. Maybe he just splattered some blood all over, some fake blood. And then he wears this bandage, which is why even on MSNBC, they've been asking, so what's under the bandage? How come we haven't gotten a medical report from there? What's under the bandage? Does he really need to be wearing the bandages? This is the conspiracies that are coming out of the left on this, which, of course, they can't let Trump have this moment, especially when he got up, and I still am impressed with, let me get my shoes. He was just shot at. Let me get my shoes. Yeah. And of course, he knew by then that the shooter had been shot back at. He's surrounded by a Secret Service. He's feeling much safer at that point. And then he's fist pumping the crowd, as you saw. They can't even let him have that because on MSNBC, they're trying to criticize him for taking a moment or so to raise his fist and cheer on the crowd and yell, fight back. Because, see, that makes him look good. That makes him look tough, which is why Joy Reid on MSNBC, now that we have Biden out for a little while because he has COVID again, despite all the COVID shots that he got, Biden is out with COVID again. So Joy Reid on MSNBC is trying to say that, you see, that shows that the president is every bit as tough and resilient and strong as Joe Biden is, and Biden is every bit as tough as Trump is, because she's trying to make some kind of equivalence here. Trump got shot, but, Biden is dealing with COVID again, and so, that shows how tough anything they can do to keep their guy going, anything. To me, it's fun to stand back from both parties and listen to this nonsense from both ends. I'm talking about the nonsense part specifically. 742, Wake Up.
Live and local, all across Wyoming. Wake Up, Wyoming, with Glenn Woods on K2 Radio. Join in at 888-97-WOODS or the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app.
Involve the members of your community to help keep your kids safe. Because when you talk, they hear you. For more information, visit talktheyhearyou.samhsa.gov.
.45 is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. Off we go to talk to Don Day from Day Weather. So the good news is we're getting these really beautiful orangey sunsets. And this morning, the moon setting on the horizon looking orangey. Just absolutely beautiful. The bad news, Don, is the reason for that.
Yeah, there's wildfire smoke throughout the western side of the U.S. and up into western and southwest Canada. With the high pressure ridge that's overhead trapping the air, we just kind of are just recirculating it. So the smoke doesn't have a chance to disperse. So as long as we have fires, and we will here for a bit longer, we're going to have the smoke and haze. It'll come and go. It'll be thicker some days thinner.
It is nice when a shower passes over and gives us a little bit of relief by washing out the sky, but now those showers are still sort of hit and miss.
They are hit and miss. It's feast or famine. It's like going to the casino. When you pull the lever, are you going to get 777s, or is it going to eat your quarter? And that's how these thunderstorms go. Now, what we've seen this week is that Monday was a pretty busy day of thunderstorms. Not a lot of activity Tuesday. We did see quite a few thunderstorms, especially in the east and the south yesterday. Today, thunderstorms I think are going to be more biased a little bit to the western side of the state, but they increase again as we head on into Friday and the weekend. So no matter where you go in the afternoon and evening hours across the state, you've got a chance of seeing these thunderstorms. It doesn't mean it's a guarantee, but they'll be out there where you have a really good chance of experiencing one of these. If you go up to the mountains, the high country will have these every day.
This is the only time in my entire radio career that I've ever heard a meteorologist use a slot machine reference for rain. It worked. It certainly did. That was different.
You have to get creative sometimes when there's not a lot to talk about.
Okay, now, we're already peering into the weekend weather forecast, and I still see there's a possibility of a pretty good drop in temperatures.
Yeah, it'll be very comfortable this weekend. For the third weekend of July, most of the state will be in the 80s. There'll even be some just upper 70s and lower 80s in some areas. So that's good. I mean, it could be a lot worse, like last weekend when we had 90s and 100s. So a comfortable weekend. Just plan on these afternoon and evening thunderstorm chances. If you're ready for them, you've got a good weekend coming up to be outdoors.
All right. Thank you, Don. Don Day with Day Weather. Okay, so Frank Gambino is not going to be with us for the rest of the morning. He just let us know. He's got something he's got to go to, so he took off to go to that thing, which means it's just you and me. Now, next Monday, and I'll play it more than once, next Monday at about 6:50, about this time, 6:48 in the morning, we're going to have, instead of Frank, Weird Al Yankovic on the program. Yes, the actual Weird Al Yankovic. He was trying to schedule an interview. Miss Mary was determined to get him, but, I mean, his schedule, as you can imagine, he's doing a lot of interviews, so that's where he could fit in, which is why we had to bump Frank. Frank's okay with that. It means he gets to sleep a little bit later, and that's just fine. Now, I did mention yesterday I would like to get Weird Al Yankovic on as a full-time rather than have sports at that segment every single morning at this time, every single hour. We just instead have Weird Al Yankovic. But, we can't afford Weird Al. Our budget only allows us a Frank Gambino. So we're going to have to stick with Frank. But, yeah, to next Monday, if you want to tune in. Now, when I record the interview, I'm going to have it live with him at about this time. And then when I'm done with Weird Al later on in the morning, for those people who missed it, I'll go ahead and play it again. But, yeah, there's this stand-in. We're going to bump the sports guy to get Weird Al in there, which I think is totally worth it. And I know Frank had no problem with it, and I'm sure you have no problem with it either. The only thing that I thought was weird, after Miss Mary had landed the interview, I went down the hallway and mentioned to our news lady, hey, we're going to have Weird Al. She's young. And she turned to me and said, who's Weird Al Yankovic? Which I asked her if she's an American. I mean, honestly, what country are you from? Miss Mary, who I believe is even younger, knows. But Miss Mary is an American. I don't think our news anchor is at this point. I seriously have questions about things like that. Meantime, since Frank is out, I play fill-ins.
Who remembers playing sports when they were a kid? Like T-ball, soccer, round of applause if you guys remember this, yeah? Here's the thing. Now that I have kids in the sports and doing this stuff, I've noticed something. Sports, they changed for kids. Yeah, we kept score, which is completely unheard of now, right? Because you don't want to hurt the kids' feelings if they lose, right? Because everyone's a winner, right, guys? That's real life, isn't it? No, I've been to Walmart. We're not all winners out out there, guys. All right? We're not all I'm saying is we need to teach our kids what it feels like to lose so they know what it feels like to win and work for it. That's all I'm saying. You know what I mean? Yeah. And get after a little bit. But I'm not going to get on a whole pedestal about this issue because we got bigger problems with kids' sports. The treats. You guys remember the treat parent at the end of the game? Yeah. The treats. In the 80s, we got awesome treats, man. We got like Mountain Dew or Surge. You guys remember Surge? Yeah, it wasn't Surge, it was Jolt Cola, 5 times the caffeine, right? You get that stuff, your kid would be like, wow! 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 Mow the lawn, drive the car, clean it. You got some sort of cupcake with it. Nothing healthy. It was great. Those were the treats. But you can't get away with treats like that now, can you? Something magically in the last few years called gluten came out. Ruined everything. Gluten issues? Are you kidding me? We didn't have gluten issues in the 80s. We just dealt with the diarrhea. You know what I mean? We just dealt with it. Got a little tummy ache or scrape on your knee, your daddy or grandpa will be like, rub some dirt in it. Eat the dirt. You guys remember the dirt mentality? Yeah, those were good times. Dirt fixed everything in the 80s. Right? Be sitting there with a broken leg just dangling there, right? Just dangling. Your grandpa will be coming to say, put some dirt in it and walk it off. That's how it works. Yeah. But you can't even say the dirt thing anymore because it'd have to be organic dirt. Huh?
Here's one thing that always gets me is whenever we do have some kind of like T-ball, and nobody's keeping score with this because it's T-ball. Hang on. Everybody in the stand knows what the score is. You can go ahead and say we're not keeping score, but go talk to the kids. They know what the score is. They know who's winning, who's losing. Go talk to the parents up there, and the parents know who's winning and who's losing. So you really can't fool anyone with the whole we're not keeping score because these kids are just too young and we don't want to really crush anyone because they're losing the game. And losing maybe by a lot. They might feel bad. It might hurt their feelings. Which my answer to that is the perfect time to hurt their feelings is about then. Because they can learn about winning and losing and not only how to be a gracious winner, but how not to be a sore loser and how, when they've lost, to get it together so next time they go out and play, they don't lose again. So I never did like this whole idea. And I've seen the everybody gets a trophy thing in person, which I thought was about the dumbest thing. Everybody gets a trophy just because they showed up. Yeah. Some of these things are changing around the country. Not everywhere, but in many places. It's actually changing. Good to see it. All right, coming up on some local business that we have to take care of. We're going to roll into news time after that. National local update on the weather forecast. Special guest in the 8 o'clock hour. Then you and I get back into it again with open phones from there on out. It's Wake Up Wyoming.
Day.
.806 the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming, so we'll put the open phones on hold for just a minute because Kathy Holden, also known as Prairie Wife in Heels, is sitting in the studio with me, who I don't get to see often enough, but I don't get to see it, but you're all over the community.
I am. Everywhere. Some would say all over the state, Glenn.
Yeah.
And thank you, by the way, for letting me hang out with you
Absolutely.
for a little bit this morning.
Anytime you want to come in. This is important. We talk about this about every year at this time,
yep.
Which is the Pink Ribbon Run. But before we get into what the Pink Ribbon Run is, I think it's important that everybody knows why this is important to you.
Yes, so I am a board member of the Wyoming Breast Cancer Initiative, which is a statewide organization that grants funds to help women, men, anyone that needs help with a breast cancer issue, whether it's just getting a mammogram, gas cards for treatment, if they've been diagnosed. That's what the Wyoming Breast Cancer Initiative does. Over $1 million has been given to Wyoming people. Why this is something that I personally am passionate about is both my mom and my older sister are breast cancer survivors. I went the route of having a preventive mastectomy in the hopes that I could escape a diagnosis, just to be blunt.
Right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So and when you've told me about this story before, my thought is I can't imagine, I really can't, how nervous or the fear that must have been in you to say, I'm going to go ahead and take a preemptive strike at this, but then to actually do it. I mean, that's a massive step on your part.
It absolutely was overwhelming, especially because when I underwent the surgery, it was 8 years ago.
Yeah.
More people are familiar with this option to take care of their own health, and they're more familiar with the process now. But 8 years ago, there was absolutely nothing on it. I went, of course, to Google, as any person would when I was given this option, and I couldn't find anything on it other than the 60 plus crowd. I was 35 when I had mine, and I was still nursing my 5th child when I had to make that decision. So that's something else that the Wyoming Breast Cancer Initiative does, is we're a resource for people. We have information, we have options, and I myself used my blog, prairiewifeandheels.com, to share my entire story beginning to end with that same hope of offering support.
Now, let's talk about, since you mentioned what age you were and the kids. That's really important because some people could say, well, it typically happens to people of this age. Could be true, but.
Yeah, and we're catching things like lumps and diagnosing women so much earlier now, which is wonderful, right? The earlier you can catch it, the earlier you can do something to maybe prevent the need to have extreme treatment. And again, that's what the Wyoming Breast Cancer Initiative is about, offering those grants so people that are at different income sets can get diagnosed early. Wyoming is at the bottom of the heap. Women are unnecessarily dying because it's so hard to get the right care here if you're living 2 hours away from your doctor.
Right. And for the men out there, no, this doesn't mean wait until you get man boobs. You can get it before that, but now how do the guys find it? Same way?
Same exact thing. You really need to pay attention to your family history. Men, women, everybody that's listening, if you have a first-degree relative, that means a sister or a mom that has been diagnosed with breast cancer, you need to immediately let your doctor know, and you need to be getting mammograms or whatever they suggest, MRI, ultrasound, as soon as your doctor says. You need to be monitoring so much earlier than the average person.
Okay. So when people go, and I know I go in for a doctor appointment every couple of years, but it has to do with flying. And so I do have a couple of extra things checked just because.
Your family history.
Well, family history, and I'm getting older.
That happens to the best of us, Glenn.
I know.
Yeah, I know. Here, I'm in my 40s. I get it, dude.
I hit 60 in October.
What?
Can you believe that?
You're looking good. You must be wearing some sunscreen or doing Botox. I don't know. You look good, dude.
The Botox route works for me. But even then, I do know that I'm hitting a certain age, so I have to have certain things checked. But again, I also want to reiterate to people, when you go in to get checked out now and then, I mean, ask for those extra things no matter what age you are.
Especially if you have that family history, and just let your doctor know if since your last visit, someone in your family has been diagnosed, whether it's thyroid cancer, brain cancer, diabetes, anything like that, add it to your file, because then that changes your care that you need.
Sure, especially with the family history. Got to watch out for that. All right, now, what resources are available in Wyoming? And I know it's not going to be as much as, let's say, if you lived in Denver.
Yeah, that is true. So I highly recommend, if you have received a diagnosis, if you feel like listening to this, you know what, there is that one lump, I need to get it checked out, go to wyomingbreastcancer.org. We have all the resources you need. We have grants. We can connect you with someone. We'll help you navigate paperwork if you've been diagnosed and you're overwhelmed. We'll send you to someone local that can help mentor you and offer that support. We have a lot of women in Wyoming that have reached out to wyomingbreastcancer.org thinking about a preventive mastectomy, and they get sent to me, and I talk to them on the phone, or I'll email them, whatever they're comfortable with, to give them the support that they need. But all these resources, the millions of dollars, the over $1 million that we've given across the state, we need people's help with that. So we actually have our biggest fundraiser of the year that we do coming up in Casper, Cheyenne, and Riverton. It's our Pink Ribbon Run.
Okay, Pink Ribbon Run. First off, you don't necessarily have to run if you don't want to.
Look at you.
It's
You do exactly what I was going to say. Yes, you are absolutely welcome to walk. I wanted to talk about our Casper Run, which is coming up on August 3rd. We have it at Edness, which is just right outside of town. It's shady. It's beautiful. You can walk the whole 3 miles, or Glenn, we have a little shortcut that people can do if they want to do the little shortcut because they're getting hot. Cheating is allowed, especially if you're a survivor. They can get away with anything because the day is all about them. Speaking of survivors, they can register for free for the run. They do not have to pay at all. They get to just come and join us for that sense of community. We really need people to sign up at wyomingbreastcancer.org. Get those teams going. Because it's at Edness, you can bring your dogs as long as they're on a leash. And Edness has waived the fee. So if you pull up and you're wearing pink, you can stay all day, swim with your kids.
Nice.
We have a kids area with face painting and games. It's really just, yes, about raising money for the Wyoming Breast Cancer Initiative, but we also do a survivor ceremony. We want to really foster that sense of community.
Okay, so, and I got more questions on this, but let's get people to this event first.
Yes.
So, where do they go online to sign up? And look
WyomingbreastCancer.org. If you look, there's a spot that says events, and you can go right there and you can click Cheyenne, Casper, or Riverton, whichever run/walk you want to participate in. And again, the one here in Casper is August 3rd. Now is the time to do that. Gather up a team. Just come as yourself and join us. Like I said, kids, any age is welcome.
Corporate sponsors.
Absolutely. Yeah, we've got a bunch. If you are interested in sponsoring, we are still more than happy to add you to that list.
Okay. Volunteers needed.
I feel like we will take anyone that wants to. They can reach out either through wyomingbreastcancer.org, or they can find me, Prairie Wife, on any of the social medias because I'm the run chairperson.
Okay.
So I'm in charge of getting all those volunteers together.
What do you need the rest of the year? Because this is great for raising money now, but you've got to go through the whole year too.
So we do several fundraisers, of course, in October because that's a special month. But really, honestly, what we would love is if people just spread the word about the Wyoming Breast Cancer Initiative, that we're a resource. If they hear someone talking about a diagnosis, if they are of a certain age and hanging out with their friends, just please mention that we are there to help. And you can donate at any time throughout the entire year, again, through that wyomingbreastcancer.org.
Okay. What was that? wyomingbreastcancer.org.
That's right, wyomingbreastcancer.org.
Thank you, Kathy. Let's wake up.
Got something to say? Call 888-97-WOODS or chat with Glenn on the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app from K2 Radio.
8:19 is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. Okay. Guests out of the way. Other topics out of the way. Time for the most dangerous I can do it better than that. Time for the most dangerous portion of this radio program. Is that better? It's open phones.
Warning. Wake Up Wyoming is about to enter daily open phones. This means that anyone will be allowed to call in and talk about anything. I mean, imagine if we actually allowed you on air to say anything you wanted. Scary, right? Well, we're just that brand of crazy. If you are offended by what other people think, then maybe you want to tune out right about now. Just saying. If you should choose to call, just remember, the more funny and interesting you are, the longer Glenn will keep you on the line. Obnoxious jerks will be hung up on. Dave. All right, strap in and let's do this thing.
888-97 Woods, the phone number, 888-97-WOODS. Talk about what I'm talking about. Change the subject, fine by me. I'm actually going to toss away all the topics for just a moment. And we can get back to them because what you guys are doing is really interesting to me. Early this morning, I mentioned that Biden has COVID again, even though he's gotten all of his shots, boosters, and everything, and said that COVID was an illness of the unvaccinated, and yet he is vaccinated with all the boosters and keeps getting it. So is his wife. So is all of his staff, but here he is with COVID again. And so he's supposed to be in Las Vegas getting a bunch of stuff done, but he's not. Besides meetings that he had, but also campaigning and so on. Instead, he's at home trying to get better. Now, Joy Reid of MSNBC tried to compare this to, well, that's as brave and as tough as Trump getting shot. It's not, but okay. That's how they're going to try to sell this. Still, though, you guys out there are right away start asking questions like, hold on a second. Does this mean that Joe gets to go into his basement for the next few months until election time? That's how he ran his first campaign for president. He pretty much never showed up to anything. Pretty much ran it from his basement. Or it was run for him, I should say, from his basement. That was one of the questions. In which case I said he could, because right now the heat is on. Apparently, even Nancy Pelosi, the Wicked Witch of the West, told Biden, you really have no chance of winning this. And many other Democrats are starting to say the same thing. So the theory out there is this an excuse to lie low? I don't doubt that he has COVID, But is this a theory to lie or a chance for him to lie low, according to the theory? And is he just going to not make any appearances between now and then? In which case, I have to ask the question, what about the next debate? Because he's got another debate that he has to go to. And he was already tired as it was and taking plenty of naps, and COVID makes him even more tired. Right away, some people started tossing me notes. Sympathy pledge? Sympathy ploy here? Is he trying to get sympathy? I don't know. I think he probably legitimately has COVID, and he's going to bow out for a while. What happens next? You and I don't know. I just enjoy all of the theories out there. So what do you think he's going to do with this now that he's got COVID again? And I always have to throw in again because he keeps having it. What now? Where does he go? Is this the chance that the Democrats have been looking for to get rid of him? Is this how Biden finally bows out? These are the questions I'm getting. Now, people are sending me the question by using the Wake Up Wyoming app, hitting the chat button on the Wake Up Wyoming app and sending me text messages. But you can also call in 888-97-WOODS, 888-97-WOODS. But the next question was, is this how Biden finally gets out? Does he just say, I'm sick, I'm not doing well, I can't run anymore, and this is his excuse to quit? Again, I don't know the answer to that. This is what you guys are telling me. As soon as it was announced that he had COVID and the president needs to go home and recover, right away, here come the questions, which I understand the questions. And Lord knows what's going to happen between now and election time. Also, let me toss out there, as soon as, well, this past weekend happened and Trump gets his ear nicked by a bullet, and of course everybody has started assuming so many things about what had happened. We're still learning a lot more about the shooter. But as soon as that has happened, I heard people within the same room as me, but also from other places, were saying, Trump just won the election. That's it, he just won. Remember, though, people's memories and feelings, which is how a lot of this is sold based on feelings, on things like this, are short-lived. So while we haven't gotten the latest polls out yet, and you know I'm not big on polls anyway, I've been saying all along, you don't know what's going to happen until after it happened. That's how I make predictions. When someone asks me, what do I think is going to happen? My answer is, wait till after it happens, and I'll tell you what's going to happen. Because that's the only way you really know. But any bump that Trump might have gotten, and I think he probably will, doesn't last forever. And we got about 4.5 more months to go, roughly, right? So that can all fade away between now and election time. How does this play out? I don't know. The Democrats still have an opportunity to replace Biden. Now, I know there's some problems. He's already on the ballot in several places. What do you do about that? And I still think that can be worked out. But is that opportunity there once again for the Democrats to go pick somebody else? Or do they keep trying to prop this up like Weekend at Bernie's? Which is, by the way, at the convention, I am so glad when Governor DeSantis was speaking that he brought up Weekend at Bernie's, because that's essentially what we have here. This is a whole Weekend at Bernie's situation. So what happens between now and Election Day is anybody's guess. You didn't see last weekend happening with the assassination attempt. You didn't see that. None of us did. Did you see Biden getting COVID? No. None of us saw any of this happening. So what? We have about 4.5 more months to go, and there's a lot that can happen during that time. So none of us have the answer to this. And remember what I've often said, always said, polls don't matter. Sometimes polls are kind of interesting to look at to say, gosh, is that a trend? That's an interesting question. We should ask the question. That's a good question. But actually believing a poll as the outcome, nobody knows. All right. Even if the election is close, or because they keep saying this is razor thin close, we don't know. I know a lot of you would like to believe that Trump is way ahead. We don't know. We have no idea. Nobody knows. So what happens next with Biden now, we don't know. I know he's got to take a little bit of time off to recover from this. Now, in his more frail position that he's in as an older man, but you've seen the way Biden shuffles around, and he does sleep most of the day away anyway. We've all seen this. We all know about this. he's only available for a very short time every single day as president. What was it, from 10 to 4? I think is what he typically shows up as, 10 to 4. Which means at this stage here, in the condition that he's currently in, chances are, if he has COVID, and assuming he has a mild case of it, okay, it's still going to take him longer to recover than if he was a young man. And that's just a fact of getting older. He gets sick, it's going to last a little bit longer. So how long is he out of this? Now, personally, I think the fewer public appearances that Biden makes, the better. He's been trying to do interviews, even just recently did a Lester Holt interview. And I know the Democrats keep trying to say that, look, that interview with Lester Holt, that was really, did an interview with George Snuffleupagus. That was a great interview. No, they actually weren't. I mean, you can hear what the pundits say about it, but when you go watch the interviews for yourself, you can see he's not doing all that well. He's kind of struggling at it. He makes it through the interview, but it's tough. So maybe in even public appearances, when he's walking around talking, now and then they got him on so many Red Bulls, he's kind of hyped up. But in many public appearances in front of live audiences, he's kind of whispering and stammering and shuffling when he walks. So even Democrats are looking at Biden right now going, yeah, I think we just ran out of Biden. He's not going to, no, this isn't going to, no. He hadn't got much left. So probably hiding at home, COVID or not, for a bit of time is actually about the best thing that the Biden campaign can do. Oh, he's got COVID, he'll be out for a while. There, now Biden cannot get out there and screw anything up because he's at home with COVID, so sorry. There. Now the news has nothing to report on when it comes to Biden other than he has COVID. Probably the best excuse Biden has had in a while. We'll see how it plays out. All right, coming up on 8:30, local news coming your way after a local news update on the weather forecast. You and I get back into it again. It is open phones. 888-97 was the phone number. That's 888-97-WOODS. Chet and Yoder, we're still waiting for them to tell us what to think. I-80 John in Granite Canyon. Remember, the only accurate poll is in the strip club. Yeah, that's true. Let's wake up, Wyoming.
Hyundai. The only show broadcasting from a bunker under Devil's Tower. Hey, it's cold down here. Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods, 6 a.m. weekdays on AM 1030 and FM 95.1.
8:36 the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. Okay, Mike in Cheyenne. I'm getting comments on what I was just saying here, so I'll go to this. And you can call in, by the way. 888-97-WOODS, 888-97-WOODS. These comments I'm about to read are people using the Wake Up Wyoming app, and they're hitting the chat option. So just download it at your app store. It's free. Mike in Cheyenne, Biden can't be replaced. It would be a pain to replace all the printed ballots filled out for him. Yes, and it would. Yes. I understand what you're saying. No, they went through a lot of trouble. That's a lot of ink. They went through a lot of trouble pre-printing all of those ballots to put into those drop boxes. It took them months to get to this far. You think that they're going to go back now and reprint all of those ballots? Please. You know, Mike, what that reminds me of? A little while ago when we had a Supreme Court nominee. A Supreme Court justice had died, and Trump had to replace him. And so the Democrats had their protesters show up. And, of course, it was anti-whatever nominee, whoever Trump was going to nominate. But they didn't know who Trump was going to nominate, so they left that blank so people could write it in. Didn't matter. As long as Trump nominated them, they were against it. They'll just write the name in later. True Dog is in also Cheyenne. Even at Biden's best, I find him very hard to understand. The way he mumbles, it makes him nearly unintelligible. And I agree with him. It does. Which is why, I don't know. I think he really does have COVID. I really do. But I think the Biden campaign will find, if they don't already know it, the less they have Biden on the campaign trail, the better. So they can have him lie low for a while and just milk this for all it's worth. The longer they can have Biden at home, in bed, sick, the better it is for Biden's campaign. Remember, that's pretty much how we won last time. He didn't run a campaign. He was in his basement, made appearances when he absolutely had to. They knew of his condition back then, and they were doing this. All right, slight change of topic. Well, pretty complete change of topic here. John Deere has reversed course on their woke agenda after some backlash. And I know a lot of you are John Deere fans. Look, where people listening to me now, since we're in flyover country, it's farming, it's ranching, et cetera, et cetera. John Deere tractors are all over the place. There's a story in front of me from Not the Bee, and that is Babylon Bee, of course, is a satirical site. And they wisely put up a second site, which was for stories that are so outrageous that you would think it's satire, but it's not. So they have to say Not the Bee. They write, we showed you last week how John Deere had gone full woke with parades and gender nonsense and pronouns policies and so on. Well, okay. Here's what they've been dabbling in. Funding pride events for kids. Let me see. Well, they also have pronoun training at their shops and in factories and so on. Bill Gates listed as their greatest shareholder. John Deere celebrated their accounting and financial team taking United Way's 21 Days of United for Equality program. It goes on and on and on. Okay, well, and this time, though, John Deere has been one of the most beloved brands for conservative farmers, according to their CEO, until they went woke. And then they started feeling the heat. Here's a note from John Deere. Our customers' trust and confidence in us is, well, our utmost importance to everyone at John Deere. We fully intend to earn it every single day. And then they put out a letter where they basically said all of that stuff, the woke stuff that they were doing, they decided, we're just going to stop. And they're not taking back anything that they said. They're not apologizing for anything that they said. They're just going to stop. Now, this, I think, is a great move on their part. Here's why I say that. Remember when we had the whole Bud Light controversy? And I'd said to you, hey, Budweiser, Anheuser-Busch, just sell beer. Whatever you do as a company, just do what you do. Don't get involved in anything. Not politically, not socially. Because the moment you start taking sides, you're alienating someone. I don't care if you take the left side or the right side or some other side beyond that. The moment you take a side in these arguments, you've alienated people. So just do what you do. So for John Deere, they were trying to virtue signal the hell out of everything. And who are their customers? Well, mostly Southern ranchers and farmers, Midwesterners, Westerners, ranchers, farmers, and so on. Mostly very conservative people who don't want to hear it. They don't care about your virtue signaling. They don't want to hear it. What they want is a good quality tractor at a good price with good service, too. So if something breaks down, they got good service backing them up, great warranties. They want their old John Deere tractor. And they don't want to hear anybody with any political or social points of view, no matter what that political or social point of view is. Just make great tractors and service them as well. Honor your contracts, honor your warranties. Make sure that when something does break down, John Deere is there for them. And you'll have customers that just don't go away. That John Deere name will continue to be a great name in American business. John Deere's doing the right thing, but they're not apologizing for anything. They're just not going to go there anymore. They're just selling tractors. That's what I've been saying all along. Wolfie and Campion, it would be great if Biden dropped out of all those fake ballots and would still I'm sorry, I'm reading this wrong. It would be great if he dropped out, Biden did. All those fake ballots would still be for Biden. It would make the demon's head explode. Okay, I see what you're saying. So if Biden were to drop out and yet all of these fake ballots continue to appear anyway? Okay. These are people that are texting me on the Wake Up Wyoming app, and Chet and Yoder just sent me an image. I'll take a look at that in just a couple of minutes. Even when I'm not talking John Deere for a moment or Bud Light, let's get back to that topic. But when it came to sports, when Colin Kaepernick started taking a knee, what I'd said at the time was to those in the sports industry, in this case it was football, just play football. People go to a football game to escape. They don't want anyone virtue signaling anything. Don't have a day that celebrates anybody's point of view other than we're all Americans and this is a great American sport, and so we're going to play it. You do that, football fans will show up and have a great time. Same with baseball fans, too. Don't virtue signal anything. Just play baseball. That's what you need to do with baseball fans, with football fans. Just play the sport. If you're making beer, just make beer. If you make tractors, just make tractors. And you can see that what's happening with John Deere is exactly what I'm talking about now. And I appreciate that John Deere has decided to backtrack. But again, they're not taking an opposite point of view as they backtrack. They're not saying anything. They have figured it out. Just make great tractors and sell them. And when someone asks you your opinion, hey, John Deere, what do you think about whatever issue? John Deere should answer by saying, we make tractors. Hey, Bud Light, what do you think about whatever issue? We sell beer, is what we think. And that's what you do. And as long as you do that, you'll have loyal customers. As long as your product is great and at a great price. 8:45, wake up.
And we're back. Sorry, we were busy tricking pescatarians into eating Rocky Mountain oysters. Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods.
8:49 is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. Frank Gambino's out on assignment, so it's just you and me. Don't forget Monday, early in the morning. During Frank's segment, for one segment, we're going to have Weird Al Yankovic on the program. Yes, the Yank himself. Does anyone call him the Yank? Well, I just did anyway. All right, so yeah, he will be here Monday for just one segment, and Frank will just have to sit out while Weird Al is on the program with us. And then we'll repeat that for those who missed it, because the original interview is going to be really early in the morning. But I'll play it again later for you. All right. Volkswagen bug breaks down so alleged drug dealer can't finish his meth run. A Wyoming drug dealer couldn't finish his methamphetamine run from Colorado last month because his Volkswagen bug slowed to a crawl and spewed black smoke when he reached Chugwater, Wyoming, documents say. The gentleman of Gillette faces felony charges for possession of methamphetamine with intention to trade and et cetera, that talks about the fines and the prison. He was already on the radar with the Wyoming Division of Criminal Investigation, which named him as a person of interest in investigations dealing with drugs, meth, and so on. The affidavit said that deputies had been alerted of his presence and drugs in the car, and then the car breaks down just outside of Chugwater with all of that smoking going on. No, not him smoking, and the vehicle wasn't smoking, but as in smoking meth, it was smoking from the engine itself. Of all the places to not break down, it would be on the Wyoming side with a car full of drugs in there, which I still have a theory about this. They hire idiots like this who get stopped by the cops and arrested. And it's like, well, you remember, of course, we had a hit movie back in the 70s about this, Smokey and the Bandit. So while the cops are dealing with that guy, a whole semi-truck full of drugs goes by. Yeah, because this moron was running interference. That's my theory as to what happens. Anyway, Frank is out on assignment right now, so in his place.
I don't know how to describe it to people that didn't see the Paralympics. It's sort of like the Paralympics. It's sort of like a children's book where all the broken toys have a picnic.
After closing out a successful first season, the WNBA is considering several changes to improve the level of play in the league next year. Among the proposals, extending the playoffs, increasing salaries, bringing back the three-point line, and replacing all the female players with guys. Okay, WNBA high scoring, and enter. Oh, Google. Did you mean NBA high scoring? That's terrible. Oh, come on now. All right, let's try a different one. WNBA triple double. And enter. Oh, Google. Look what Google said. Did you mean NBA triple double? Google, that is sexist.
Any cricket fans in? Interesting fact about cricket. Cricket was invented at Rugby Public School when some boys were playing football and one of the boys forgot the ball. And they're all standing in a field and nothing happened.
Let's make it easier. WNBA double double. Enter. Google!
There's a couple of sporting events that the British do that I don't understand. For example, cricket, to me, just looks like a cross between baseball and golf. Doesn't that to you? It's just like baseball, but instead they low pitch it, and the guys are supposed to hit it with this cricket bat in more like a golf swing. Okay. Rugby is another one, which I guess is their version of our football, but they spend most of their time all gathered together in a group, and that group pushes itself back and forth as they all struggle for the ball. Now, I never did understand the whole rugby, although rugby's done without pads, and more people get injured doing rugby than doing our football here in the United States because it's a seriously rough sport. And that, I just told you everything I know about sports. After that, you'll have to talk to Frank. Or Weird Al Yankovic when he comes on Monday's program. Coming up on some local business we have to take care of. After the local business, it's news time, national, local update on your weather forecast. More open phones. 888-97 Woods, the phone number. That's 888-97-WOODS. Wake Up Wyoming. Six the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. It is a Thursday, and I swear I can see the weekend from here.
Today's show is sponsored by ice. It's water, but in a solid state.
Amazing.
Caution.
Yeah.
It may fall from the sky.
And make major dents in your vehicle. 888-97 Woods, the phone number, 888-97-WOODS. Going to talk about money for just a bit, because here I have to worry about the article. This is from Wyoming Public Media, which often it's got some bias in it, so I'll go ahead and call that out should I see some as I go through the article. But the headline was, Wyoming among top 10 states that pays lowest wages, but changes may be more complicated than the numbers suggest. Now, hold on, because I read that, and let's see if I called this up at the same time. There was a contradictory article. I'm trying to remember if it was from yesterday or today. It was an article about how Wyoming, it's a great place to work because of our work and our wages. So I've got a couple of contradictory studies here. In fact, now that I think about it, if you'll pardon me for just a moment, I'm going to go down through, because this one popped up yesterday, and I wanted to get to it yesterday, but I wasn't able to. So there's that one there. Hold on, scrolling down through the Wake Up Wyoming site here. There's a Rocky Mountain Power story. And it was from an unusual source, too, not someone I would normally expect to pop up a story like that on our Wake Up Wyoming site. If I can't find it, I'll just go ahead and move on. But, yeah, it was a story about how Wyoming wages were a good thing when you consider the cost of living as opposed to the wages that we have. I'm not finding it right away. I'll go back, see if I can find it in the next break. All right, so let's go to the story that's from Wyoming Public Media. Oh, wait, hang on. People are allowed to interrupt me. Fred is in Colorado. Morning, Fred.
Good morning, Glenn. I'm
Yes,
sorry
sir.
to have to interrupt you, but I've got
That's all right.
important stuff to talk about.
Okay.
3 things. Number one, they're talking about, Biden had a cold in the debate, and
Yeah.
now he's got COVID, and they've got all these excuses for him why his performance hasn't been good.
Yeah.
But did you notice in the first debate in 2020, when Trump wasn't feeling well, they just bashed him?
Yeah.
That shows you the inconsistency of these people.
Of course. What, the media inconsistent? No.
Well,
Can't
there might be one or two that are honorable, but they're
Yeah.
only on your station.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, okay.
Okay. Number two, I was listening to that interview that the guy was doing on the college campuses with the students, asking what they thought about Trump.
Right.
When I was listening to those people, it reminded me of this quote, without the First Amendment, we wouldn't know who the idiots are.
Right. Yeah. It's
And then the third thing, and I won't hold you up.
Okay.
Did you ever find those 2 Range magazines that were sent to you?
I think I did, yeah. Now I got to go find where I put them now that you mention it, because I did flip through them. I did read them, and I thought
Well,
that was a
I
very
want to make sure you're
interesting
getting a
magazine.
subscription because I got it for you for a year or so.
Oh, okay. No, it was a good magazine, and I'd never heard of it before, and so that provides me with a little bit of information that I'd never really thought of before. So, yeah, thanks for sending that, because there are some magazines that are unique to certain industries or even parts of the country that other people just don't know about. So,
And that's
a
what
good
Range magazine is. It's
Yeah.
truly for the people that would listen to your show and be part of your area. So that's all I got to offer.
All
But
right.
again, thank
Thank
God
you,
for the
Fred.
First Amendment.
I appreciate it. Well, another thing I like about the First Amendment is, and I'm a big fan of this. One of my favorite talk show hosts of all time, some of you will recognize the name Neil Bortz. And Neil Bortz had a way of just letting stupid people talk. People would call his program, and they were just some of the dumbest people sometimes. And he would just ask them questions and just let them talk. And he didn't have to say anything because the longer they talked, the dumber they sounded. Why argue with them? Just let them do what they do. Oftentimes, the best way to defeat people like that is to let them do what they're doing. Don't call them out. Don't stop them. In fact, encourage them to talk more. All right, now, back to the wage thing that I was talking about. The story here said Wyoming ranks 9th in the nation for the highest percentage of workers who receive less than $17 an hour, according to a study. While that may sound troubling, the big picture is more complicated. An economics professor at University of Wyoming said some business leaders and elected officials tend to worry about wage price spiraling, which can cause prices for goods and services to spike and spiral out of control. Same way it did in the 1970s. Remember stagflation in the 1970s. And, quote, prices for all goods had to go up at a very rapid rate. That meant that workers needed more raises, and that meant that prices went up. And that meant that workers, and so on and so on. You can see the situation we get into. We give everybody a raise. Okay, everybody gets a raise, but in order to pay for the raise, you got to raise prices, which means everybody needs a raise, and up it goes. While the study may not mean doom and gloom for Wyoming's economy, the story says it does point out decades-long disparity between men and women. There we go, right there. Between men's and women's earning. This is where the story gets false. Roughly 40% of working women in Wyoming earn less than $17 an hour. When race is factored into the equation, the picture grows grim as well. And then, so this is where, again, they have that completely wrong in the Wyoming Public Media story. And we've talked about this before. There is no wage gap. That is a myth. And the reason that how they calculate a wage gap is this. They just go ahead and take a look at what everybody is making, right? And then they split men and women, and they find out men tend to make more than women. Therefore, there's a wage gap, a disparity. But they don't calculate why. men tend to make more than women, and it usually is because men will take the tougher jobs that pay more, that are longer hours, et cetera, while most women are more concerned with family, for example, as one example, not the only example, but as one. But as typically is the case, when men and women are working the same job for the same period of time, they're getting the same wage. So that's the part of the story we can just throw out. And if women got paid less money than men, then why wouldn't companies hire more women because they could pay them less? See, it doesn't make any sense. Okay, so if your costs go up, your profits get squeezed, so you have to hire fewer workers. That part is true. That could impact Wyoming's unemployment numbers, which have been steady between 2.8 and 3% for the past 15 months. Employers may still offer higher wages to attract job seekers. Most of the states that made the list of top 10 to the federal minimum wage, which sits at $7.25 an hour, Mississippi, it talks about Arkansas, stuff like that. So my question then to Wyoming public media and many other people as well is, so what do you want to do about that? If it's in fact, if you're looking at this going, people are not earning enough money. Minorities are not earning enough money. Women are not earning enough money. If that's what you really believe, what is your solution? Now, I've talked about this before, and my solution, which I'll get into next, but my solution has nothing to do with any government program or law. I steer away from the government programs and laws. We've seen how that goes. Like in California just recently, they raised up to $20 an hour, $20 or $25, I forget, for fast food employees in California. And what happens is the number of people who lost their jobs, companies completely moved out of state because of this, or people lost their jobs, or they got their raise, but they're working fewer hours, so they're not making any more money. That's what's happened. So you definitely don't want any kind of government program or law or something like that to try to fix this issue. So how do you fix people not earning enough money? Mac is in Casper. The wage gap disappeared when we examine pay by the hour rather than annual salaries. That's true, too. I'll talk about how you solve the problem because I got the answer, and it does not involve government in any way. No laws, nothing. We'll talk about it next. 9:15, Wake Up.
Wake Up Wyoming goes anywhere you do with the Wake Up Wyoming app. Free download for Apple and Android. This is K2 Radio.
9:21's the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. Okay, so what I was just talking about was a Wyoming public media story, which part of the story is correct, and the rest of it is you need to just throw it out, which is typical with, not just Wyoming public media, but public media in general, because they always have to throw their bias part in there. So it talked about wages in Wyoming and how, a lot of people out there are just earning like $17 an hour or less than that. They need to be earning more. Then once again, they tried to sell the wage gap thing. Women and minorities earn a whole lot less than, white men do, which, of course, has been debunked many times over, and I've done that many times in this program. So but if there is a problem with people not earning enough, how do you solve that? Now, some people would go pass a law or start a government program, and that's been tried, and we've seen how that's worked out. It hasn't. Wolfe and Campion, minimum wage jobs at grocery stores and fast foods were originally used to teach people how to work, not meant to provide a living, could be used as a stepping stone to the next level, and which is where I started. When I got my first job, yes, I had a lot to learn. It was a stepping stone. But that's what those jobs are for. You're absolutely right. Bert is in Cheyenne. Morning, Bert. I was taught that to earn a higher wage, do more, do it better than the next person, and take more responsibility and more accountability. And there, Bert, you just nailed it. Bert stole my thunder. That's exactly what I was going to say. If you would like to earn more money, give yourself a raise. Now, there's several ways you can do that. One of the ways you can do that is some of the things that you enjoy doing that take a little bit of extra money, stop doing it. I mean, I was talking to a young lady quite a few years ago who was really complaining about how little money she was earning. But I noticed she loved her beer and she loved her cigarettes. And I said, if you cut way back on beer, don't go out for beers, don't bring 6 and 12 packs home. Just have the occasional, like on Saturday night, you're allowed to have a beer, something like that, right? How much money would you save? And so, oh, wow, loads. And you're smoking. If you quit smoking, how much money would you save? Oh, my Lord, would I save a ton of money? Well, that's one thing right there. Just find those things you can cut back on. But as far as earning more money, yeah, how much are you worth? This is where I brought up before when talking about this. If you're flipping burgers on the dollar menu, then you're going to earn that kind of a wage. How much is your work worth? See, you're paid based on how much you make for your company. The more money you make for your company, the more you're worth. So make sure that you make a lot of money for your company. Because if you're bringing in the money, they're not going to want to get rid of you, and they're going to do what they can to keep you. And that includes raises and bonuses and things like this. So do more to earn more money for your company. Be valuable. Be the employee who shows up a little bit early, stays a little bit late if needs to, without complaint, and gets everything done and does it well. Make yourself worth more. But also, let's take the fast food worker, as I mentioned, the guy flipping burgers on the dollar menu. Okay, well, you want to stay there? Was that your career goal? I doubt it was. How about this? Let's stick with the fast food industry. Start eyeing that manager position, because fast food restaurants have manager trainee programs. Many years ago, when I was first starting, I was out on my own, and I was in radio, but I was just starting out. I'm a young guy. And so I had to do the disc jockey thing because I was too young to do what you're hearing now, right? So I'm not making enough money because I'm basically working overnights at a radio station, trying to build my career. So what I did was I grabbed a job at a retail store to make some extra money during the day. And I noticed that they had a manager trainee program. And so I said, sign me up. And I did. I got into the manager trainee program, and I eventually became a retail store manager. And I kept that as a side gig should I ever wind up between radio stations, which can happen in this business. I could go manage a retail store. And I did. I used that a couple of times in my life briefly, but I did. But you see, I didn't want to be the average employee. I wanted to be on the next level. So you see what you do to give yourself a raise. And there's many other things you can as well. Micah's on the phone. Morning, Micah.
Good morning. With this equal wages thing, maybe a lot of it is true in the big picture.
Right.
But I think some of what you're saying is also false. Because look at people who are, like, even in the Olympics, I know for a fact that the women did not always get paid the same that the men did for competing in the same sport. And not against each other, but even just the mere fact that a swimmer is a swimmer, basketball player is a baskall player.
Okay. Let me tell you why the difference is.
A little bit more.
The difference is this.
And even in the legal system, because I used to work for corporate lawyers, the female lawyers usually did not make as much as male lawyers.
Okay, so here's how this works then. So let's take the WNBA, which is the women's basketball league, right? They don't earn as much as men in the NBA. But then again, go to a basketball game. Who's packing the stadiums and who's bringing in more money? The NBA.
And that's why I say I understand your point.
Yeah.
Who is bringing in the money? But when you get to the level of, like, the Olympics.
Well, Olympics are, first off, Olympic players. Olympic players don't get paid to be in the Olympics. However, they do make money for endorsements, and that comes down to the same thing. For endorsements, it matters of how much of an audience did they bring in. So if you got a female, remember Mary Lou Retton? That goes back a ways, right? Man, did she make a bunch of money, but how popular was she? And she made more money than most male athletes, but how popular was she? And that's what it comes down to.
You're going to be able to call out an exception to everything. Because as a secretary, for some of my bosses, I was making more than our our managers
Right.
were under my boss. So, yeah, you can pick out, exceptions to the rule. But as a rule, I mean, if you've got a really good law team, are those women... I mean, I think that's the way that things should be done. You go in with a specific occupation, you find out how much the men in that particular firm are making versus the women.
Right.
I think that's the only way that you can really get a true picture.
Okay. So I'll go ahead, and I played this before, but I got to let you go because we're coming up on news time. Thank you, Mike. I appreciate it. I have something to play, which I haven't played in a while, on this very topic as far as the wage gap goes. But it really does come down to, if you find yourself not making as much money as you need to be or want to be making, you can do things to give yourself a raise. And that, as Bert and Cheyenne said, make yourself more valuable. And how do you do that? Working hard, getting more skills. We'll deal with the wage gap thing right after the news. So I got local news, update on your weather forecast. Wake Up Wyoming.
Got something to say to Glenn? Use the chat on the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app and get your opinions straight to the studio with K2 Radio.
9:36 the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. So real quick before I get to something, and Micah, I think what I'm about to play, you've heard me play this before, but I'll do it again. The actual initial topic here is Wyoming Public Media does a story about how some people in Wyoming don't make all that much money, and I came across a way to solve that problem. No government programs, and that's give yourself a raise. Now, some time ago, Wyoming Public Media had done a same kind of story. This is a few years back. And they talked about a woman who was, and I forget which town she was in, but some small Wyoming town. I know they're all small. She worked as a maid in a hotel, and she has a kid, and she's a single mom, and she's really not making it. And I said, well, I mean, they want a government program to solve this problem, and my answer is, if she moved to Cheyenne, Wyoming, the Walmart distribution center is begging for people, and they have pretty good starting wages with loads of room for advancement. And while I was saying that, I got a call on air from the manager at the time of the Walmart distribution center in Cheyenne, who said, absolutely, get her down here. I can start her at a really good wage because I'm begging for employees, and if she wants to work her way up, she can certainly do that and end up making a lot of money here. So you see, the answer is, if you're in a tough spot and you're not making much money, that's on you. Okay, that's not somebody else's fault. You get yourself busy and you go give yourself a raise. Now, of course, Wyoming Public Media has to put in a gender wage gap thing. All right? So I've played this. I haven't played this in quite a while, but let's take a look at some research involving that.
If for the same work women only make 77 cents for every dollar a man makes, why don't businesses hire only women? Wages are the biggest expense for most businesses, so hiring only women would reduce costs by nearly a quarter, and that would go right to the bottom line. Don't businesses want to be profitable, or are they really just bad at math? Well, actually, it's the feminists, celebrities, and politicians spreading this wage gap myth who have the math problem. Here's why. The 77 cents on the dollar statistic is calculated by dividing the median earnings of all women working full-time by the median earnings of all men working full-time. In other words, if the average income of all men is, say, $40,000 a year, and the average annual income of all women is, say, $30,800, that would mean that women earn 77 cents for every dollar a man earns. 30,800 divided by 40,000 equals 0.77. But these calculations don't reveal a gender wage injustice because they don't take into account occupation, position, education, or hours worked per week. Even a study by the American Association of University Women, a feminist organization, shows that the actual wage gap shrinks to only 6.6 cents when you factor in different choices men and women make. And the key word here is choice. The small wage gap that does exist has nothing to do with paying women less, let alone with sexism. It has to do with differences in individual career choices that men and women make. In 2009, the U.S. Department of Labor released a paper that examined more than 50 peer-reviewed studies and concluded that the off-cited 23-cent wage gap may be almost entirely the result of individual choices being made by both male and female workers. Well, let's look at some of those choices. Georgetown University compiled a list of the 5 best-paying college majors and the percentage of men and women majoring in those fields. Number 1 best-paying major, petroleum engineering, 87% male. Number 2, pharmaceutical sciences, 48% male. 3, mathematics and computer science, 67% male. 4, aerospace engineering, 88% male. 5, chemical engineering, 72% male. Notice that women outrepresent men in only one of the 5 top-paying majors by only a few percentage points. Now consider the same study's list of the 5 worst-paying college majors. Number 1, counseling and psychology, 74% female. 2, early childhood education, 97% female. 3, theology and religious vocations, 66% male. 4, human services and community organization, 81% female. And 5, social work, 88% female. Here, it's the women who lead in all but one category. Even within the same profession, men and women make different career choices that impact how much money they make. Take nursing, where male nurses, on the whole, earn 18% more than female nurses. The reason? Male nurses gravitate to the best-paying nursing specialties, they work longer hours, and disproportionately find jobs in cities with the highest compensation. Now, here's how one expert on nursing compensation, Professor Linda Aiken of the University of Pennsylvania, sums up the data. Career choices and educational differences explain most, if not all, the gender gap in nursing. The Department of Labor paper concluded that once these differences are accounted for across all professions, the unexplained wage gap is somewhere between 4.8 and 7%, almost identical to the 6.6 percentage gap found by the AAUW. But why is there any gap at all? No one knows for sure, as both the AAUW and the Labor Department concede. There are so many variables that drive wages that no single study can cover them all. Few wage gap studies control for variables such as dangerous work environment. Men are vastly overrepresented, for example, on oil rigs. And here's another variable. Men are more willing and able to work long hours without advance notice. According to Harvard economist Claudia Golden, even if 2 lawyers have the same education, same specialty, and work the same number of hours, firms pay more to someone who is willing to always be on call and ready to be in the office when the firm needs them, as opposed to wanting a more regular schedule. This isn't sexism, it's just common sense. With more realistic categories and definitions, whatever wage gap remains would certainly narrow to the point of vanishing. So it seems that business leaders aren't bad at math simply because they don't only hire women. Those who claim that for the same work, women earn 77 cents on the dollar compared to men, on the other hand, are not merely bad at math, but at telling the truth. I'm Christina Hoff Summers of the American Enterprise Institute for Prager University.
So let's go back to what I was originally saying, which had nothing to do with the wage gap. That's something Wyoming Public Media came up with. Would you like to make sure you're in a better position financially than you are now? I understand. I do the same thing myself. Every year I take a look at myself and think, I'd like to earn a little bit more money than I did last year. And then after I've said that to myself, I think, well, what am I going to do about that? Well, I can do several things to give myself a raise. I can write another book. I can make more public appearances. There's ways here at work that I can make myself more valuable so I get more endorsements and et cetera, et cetera. And this leads to me making more money, and you can do that at work too. And if your current job is not going to give you a way to make more money, you're sort of stuck where you are, then maybe you need to look for something outside of there that can work your way up the ladder so you can earn more money. See, it's all on you. You can give yourself a raise anytime you want. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of sacrifice. But there's the solution. 9:43,
Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods on K2 Radio. Join the conversation at 888-97-WOODS.
9:49 is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. Now, Frank Gambino's out on assignment, so it's just you and me right now. I had put up a story this morning on the Wake Up Wyoming website or app. If you get the app alerts out, it'll be alerted to you at some point. Something I talked to Frank about yesterday. Why not have the Wyoming Tourist Olympics? Yeah. We can start with several sports that Wyoming... When you go to a rodeo, at a rodeo, the cowboys and cowgirls are just doing what they naturally do on the ranch anyway. calf roping and stuff like that. Everything you see them doing is what they already do at work. They're just competing with it, right? So let's have an event where tourists do what tourists naturally do at Yellowstone, but we're just going to make an event out of it. We'll start with grizzly wrestling. They get to wrestle a grizzly bear. By the way, you won if you lived. Okay. The guy that can get up and walk away and survive, he won. Fluffy cow petting. Again, now, if you win, you lived. That's how we know. And, of course, points off for getting stomped, tromped, headbutted, and gored. All right. Off the beaten path contest. That's where, despite all of the signs, they walk off the beaten path and get lost. And whoever is out there for the longest but still comes back alive wins. And let's not forget the acid pool swim, because once again, despite all of the signs saying stay out of the hot, boiling acid water, they still get into it. So there you go. That's, I think, some sport that we can bring, because it's what the tourists naturally do anyway. So why not just make it an official sport where they can win prizes and trophies and money and stuff like that? I'm completely in favor of this. I think there would be people lining up to win great prizes, especially if we have a grand prize of some good large amount of money, which we'll probably never have to pay out because almost all of these tours are going to die anyway. All right. While Frank is away, I have a whole list of things that I like playing for you guys. This guy is one of my favorites. It's just a long list of random facts that you probably don't care about, so you'll tune out about now.
Still here? Well, all right then. The study of bodily tissue as it changes over time from infectious disease is called histopathology. The color orange is named after the fruit, not the other way around. It was 28 degrees Fahrenheit in Springfield, Missouri at 5:55 a.m. on Tuesday, February 1st, 2011. The two best-selling authors of all time are William Shakespeare and Agatha Christie, with sales for each estimated between 2 and 4 billion books. The inventor of the fire hydrant is unknown because the device's original patent was destroyed in a fire. Tomatoes are the official state vegetable of New Jersey, and tomato juice is the official state beverage of Ohio. Actor Kiefer Sutherland's full name is Kiefer William Frederick Dempsey George Rufus Sutherland. Actor Richard Gere's middle name is Tiffany. Before the invention of alarm clocks, there was a profession in which you would knock on windows with a long stick to wake people up. These people were called knocker-uppers, and the people who woke them up were called knocker-upper, knocker-uppers. The S in C.S. Lewis stands for staple. The S in Ulysses S. Grant doesn't stand for anything. Cuba and North Korea are the only countries on the planet in which Coca-Cola is not officially sold. The words aspirin, cellophane, escalator, flip phone, laundromat, linoleum, and trampoline were all originally trademarked but have since become generic terms. Rabbits cannot vomit. April 11th, 1954 has been declared by some historians the most boring and uneventful day of the 20th century. As of April 11th, 2021, the studio that I work in has 6 active leaks, smells like sewage, and my landlord still doesn't care.
See, this guy started doing this. He has a YouTube page about something else entirely. I mean, completely different. And so he did this, what you just heard, of random, just stupid facts. And it got more hits than he'd ever done. So he begrudgingly did another one and said, but I'll never do another one again. He's done, I think, 2 or 3 more since then, because every time he does random facts, he gets an obscene amount of hits in the millions. And it's not what he wants to do. He hates it. But he can't deny how many people are watching his videos, which makes him money. So he keeps doing more. Although he flat out admits, I hate this, every time he starts a video. All right, coming up on some local business, then national news, local news update on the weather forecast. Tomorrow's Friday. Do it all over again. You get to vent before the weekend. It's Wake Up Wyoming.